Yo, YouTube, one more time, halftime with Coach, bitches. Wrote a little something for you here. I think you might like it. Let's talk a little bit today. Here we go. I'm a stronger, tougher, smarter dude than probably anybody you know. Just in past week, another grown man, seemingly fit, capable, much younger, certifiably in better shape than me, gave himself a hernia attempting and failing to do a task I completed without breaking a significant sweat. I did that while carrying a 102-degree fever from a double sinus infection and bronchitis that my doctor described as sounding like pennies shaken in a soda can. I've also single-handedly, while suffering from all that, corrected years of problems with bookkeeping and organization in a retail location that's been languishing for longer than I've even worked for or even known about the existence of my employer. In thus far unproductive bids to create a secondary revenue stream of any kind, I've written 20,000 words of fiction, recorded 6 hours of, if I do say so myself, insightful podcasts with my friends, and filmed and edited over an hour of video, again, not counting this one. I accomplish and endure and repair and provide and guide more before lunch, that is, if I even have lunch, than most people do in entire pay periods. And I have less to show for it than many who don't even own an alarm clock, much less have to fucking wake up to one. I'm capable of a lot. I'm doing a lot, but I'm getting very little for it besides all the pain I can stand. It's costing me everything I can make, everything I can pay, to carry the weight of my share of approximately 21% of the population. That's according to one really liberal source. Others put that number closer to 45%. I'm a white, heterosexual American man. I'm law-abiding, tax-paying, generous, kind, hard-working, and honest to a fault. Most of the time. I have hobbies, but I rarely have the time or the energy with which to participate in them. I have friends scattered all across the country and across the world if you include digital acquaintances, but again, I have precious little time to spend with them because I'm too damn busy. Working. Not earning like my dad used to do, like my grandfather used to do, but just working. Providing meat for the mill, putting food on other people's tables, paying for elected millionaires' vanity projects, being fed bullshit, alternative facts they like to call them, from every side, at every minute, by every media outlet, in every press release, in every interview. I'm growing ever more exhausted, ever more depleted by the unending drudgery of trying to keep my head above water that's increasingly full of predators nibbling off my extremities, most of whom smile and advise me they'll be doing so in accord with federal or state law. I see and am surrounded by, but don't feel like a part of, a world obsessed with demographics, with separations. In a desperate, frenzied quest for individuality, we've settled for its exact opposite, identity. We don't live in a melting pot anymore, but in a spice rack, everybody in their own hermetically sealed jar. Everyone is white, or black, or yellow, or brown, or red. Everyone is male or female, unless they're non-binary, and somehow that's even more exclusive than the one before. Everybody's either straight, or gay, or bi, or poly, or asex, or even incel, and assigned, or transgender, or transitioning between them somehow. Everyone's a Democrat or a Republican, unless they're a libertarian, or green, or constitutional, or communist, or Nazi, or anarchist, or anonymous. Black lives, blue line, all lives matter. MAGA, never Trumper, pro-life, pro-choice, GI generation, the mature or silent generation, or a baby boomer, or Generation X, or Y, or Z. Mediterranean, zone, Atkins, vegetarian, paleo, keto, volumetric, raw, macrobiotic, gluten-free. Nintendo, or PlayStation, or Xbox. Walkers or bikers, or bikers. One percenters, motorcycle clubbers, weekend warriors, tourists, or public transportation folks, or owners of fossil fuel or hybrid or electric vehicles. Active duty, or reservist, or civilian contractor, or PC, or Mac, or Linux, or Unix, or Android, or iPhone, American, or legal, or illegal, or refugee, or green card, or student, or work visa, right-handed, left-handed, ambidextrous. An infinitely growing sea of rigid and incompatible differences. Everybody prepared to fight with tooth, nail, propaganda, and gun, or no guns, for the honor, the superiority, the righteousness of their private personal niche. Look, I understand that we, Americans that is, and really human beings in general, have always been this way. Xenophobia is nothing new, and compared to some of the abysmal lows we've been dragged through over the centuries, we're generally doing pretty well. I mean, in 2019, we're pretty light on lynchings compared to 50 years ago, and institutionalized slavery has been eradicated for 150. The pain of the immediate, though, always seems like the worst pain we've ever felt. And what we're dealing with right now, it hurts a fucking lot. The present is a lens through which we see the future. And from this side, shit looks pretty bleak. The country and the world around us just seems to be careening toward oblivion, doesn't it? Famous, powerful people from every demographic are being dragged, kicking and screaming into the light of justice, whether legal or social, for all their indiscretions, current and past. The United States government is shut down, and there's not a glimmer of an indication that it's going to be reopening anytime soon. There's a mass shooting in this country at least once a month. Sometimes it seems like once a fucking week. And the victims who speak in their own defense are often attacked as puppets for some nefarious anti-freedom conspiracy. If there's anything that makes sense today, I can't see it from where I am. Then, to speak of the American president is to spew hatred and venom. Either you support him or you revile him for whatever litany of reasons. Far too many on both sides, to which I could dedicate way too much screen time, and debating Trump isn't the topic of this piece. But no one seems to see him and his agenda as benign, only either powerfully benevolent or powerfully malevolent, either a savior or a traitor to the American people, the American culture, the American way of life. The real wages of all this, though, are that those on both sides of this argument are so shockingly provocative and vitriolic toward those on the other. The division has torn us into sides, and those sides are already escalating from verbal altercations to fisticuffs, and darker days definitely lie ahead. Discourse is dead in this country, as are tact, grace, chivalry, courtesy, and common fucking sense. Even treating another person with the most basic displays of respect is, as often as not, regarded with suspicion. All motives are questioned. Every person is a threat. Every overture is an accusation. Even our loved ones, the people we love and depend upon, the ones without whom we barely could and would hardly even want to live, are just one more national nightly news broadcast away from having drowned, poisoned, or shot us to death. Husbands and wives, co-workers, even children and parents are not safe from one another's always impending explosion of madness. And complete strangers? Fuck them. Utterly below contempt, to be feared and reviled at all times and for any or even no reason. Amid all this, is anyone you know actually improving their lot in life? While wage growth is at a respectable 2.8%. In the same reporting period, the Consumer Price Index also increased 2.7%. That means that earnings versus expenditures is practically flat, and half of the increased wealth held by Americans is in the hands of the financial top 1%. Wealth and power distribution is increasingly climbing up the economic food chain, leaving less and less for the 99% of us to share and ultimately to fight over. We've been set at each other's throats by an increasingly safe, secure, and secluded minority. The United States of America, once the land of opportunity, is in the seemingly unbreakable stranglehold of an economic apartheid. Just to stay afloat, we have to work more hours and endure more hardship than we have since the Great Depression. And getting ahead, improving our circumstances, is harder and harder every day. Many of us, the vast majority of us, will never accomplish such in any meaningful way, if at all. I understand and agree with the core principles of Me Too and Time's Up. It's time for the Harvey Weinsteins and the Louis C.K.'s and the Bill Cosbys of the world to be toppled. And good riddance to them. For my own part, though, I no longer compliment strangers, and rarely and only with many qualifiers compliment coworkers or acquaintances in even the most innocuous of ways. Like, did you change your hair? Never. Oh, your hair looks nice. And for the love of all that's holy, I never presume to remark on anything any more personal or ephemeral than your hair color. I always ask for permission before offering assistance with tasks like reaching for a parcel from the top shelf at the grocery store for someone less vertically advantaged than myself. And I no longer presume the gender of a caller on the telephone or a customer at my place of business. The ma'am and sir my parents and grandparents instilled in me as requirements of verbal courtesy have gone not to the wayside, but into a dungeon reserved for the vilest of epithets, which somehow are now perfectly okay for you to use. Politeness has been subsumed by placidity in an effort to avoid offense. And while I'm complying with your demands in this regard, I ain't committed to it, and I'm not happy about it. Rather than offend you, though, I am obligated to assume that offense against myself, my culture, my upbringing, and I'd be lying if I said I didn't harbor some degree of resentment toward you about it. What was once our world, yours and mine, has become yours alone, and I am conforming to your rules about how I should behave within it, for whatever time I have left upon it. It's a gray, lukewarm bullshit place in which I can no longer be myself, because today, if I'm myself, it somehow intrudes upon and constrains your ability to be yourself. And that is fucked up. And it's sadly hyperbolic. As for the future, I don't have a bright picture to paint you. Political correctness is already seeing its backlash groups like the Proud Boys. Fuck you if you're a Proud Boy. Fuck them. And I worry that this too shall escalate before it passes. That conflict, though, is a small but hot burning one, flash in the pan, compared to the building, snowballing, and potentially terminal one between the social classes of this country and of this world. The rich continue to egg on the clash between the have-nots and the have-littles, knowing that as long as the ghetto and the suburb are locked in mutual enmity, The not rich can't set their sights on their true oppressors. We will see social control programs, otherwise and more politically referred to as entitlements and welfare, continue to expand and encourage reliance upon the complex until independent thought and self-reliance are all but wiped away, then suppressed, then outlawed entirely. If you think this is a dystopian vision, the fact is, fuck it, you're right. It's been brilliantly written about by Orwell and the Wachowskis, and who knows how many other brilliant thinkers. And the masses, us, you and me, we just plain haven't taken our medicine yet. One day, though, appeals like this one, growing in number and in eloquence, will take hold. And the longer it takes us to get there, the harder it'll be to resolve. The less likely that it can end without bloodshed. The working class of this world one day will finally reach the impending fork in the road of submissive compliance and be faced with a horrible, inevitable binary choice. Either fight or starve. Ask an air traffic controller. He hadn't been paid in a month. Soon, we'll be faced with a moment in which we have to choose between our providers and our oppressors. And those who have been deemed toxic will again be needed. Those of us who can protect and provide, who are currently demonized by no fault or offense of our own, hopefully will still be here. We fighters, we strong, we protectors. Until then, though, happy non-specific holidays, citizen. May your spaces be safe and your butt go unhurt. And good luck moving those heavy boxes.